Okay, today I wanted to take a little bit of time to go through my creations in the console versions of Little Big Planet. I just have a pretty big fear that these levels aren't going to be up online for much longer. I don't have an inside track or anything, but it just seems with a new console coming out and a new Sackboy game coming out that's not Little Big Planet, it just seems they're not long for this world. So I want to take a few minutes and just kind of show the levels that I made and kind of talk through. So this is like a director's commentary or behind the scenes or however you want to say it. So the first level I made didn't really start off even intending to be a level. I was just playing with the physics in the game. It's called Landslide. By the way, I will put links to each of these in the description. So if you want to come through and check them out yourself, you're very, very welcome to do so. Nowadays, if you have like maybe Unity engine or Unreal or even Gary's mod, you can play with physics simulations pretty easily. But back when this came out, this was my first introduction to really be able to play with a physics simulation. I was just throwing hundreds and hundreds of objects together. I wanted to see how they would react, and I was able to turn it into a timed challenge. So I'll kind of get down here and show you what's going on. We'll run through this level a few times. I won't do it too much. So I got hundreds and hundreds of these. I call them logs, but they're actually made of metal in the game. In this well, and when you jump into the boat and grab the side of the well, disappears, and we get tumbling down a giant ramp. I can get into the boat. Normally you'll jump right into the boat. So, okay, let's go. And you can pick up and then flaming levels from behind you to press the stack even further. And you can pick up a lot of speed here, and it's very, very random. Sometimes you'll have a really good run and go really fast, or sometimes like this one, just not so much. Let's go ahead and do a replay of that and kind of see how it goes. I'd like to do a couple where I cross the finish line and show you I am the high score on this game. No one, I mean, I got that score soon after I published it, and I've always held the top spot on the scoreboard. So I would love to be knocked off from the #1 place. There are no cheats. There's no way to fake getting to the end faster. There are techniques you can use to go faster, but that's a little different. And you can see, especially in this version of the game, the physics break a little bit sometimes. You may have just seen some objects go through each other. I don't think that happens so much on the earlier versions of the game. This was created in Little Big Planet 1. And from game to game, the physics are just slightly different too. So the score I got was in Little Big Planet 1. I'm not positive if it's possible to get as good a score in 2 or 3, or maybe it's possible to get a better score. Like I said, the physics are very, very similar, but they are slightly different from game to game. Just in how it everything bounces and reacts with each other. Oh, this is good. So this is the kind of speed you want to get. Oh, jeez. Oh, no. It's not good. If you die, you get sent all the way back to the beginning, but you have access to this rocket boat to get you to the finish line. I put a few bumps here just to make this trip slightly more interesting. Typically, you would want to set it up so that you would die and spawn to the scoreboard. I may not have known how to do that when I built it, or maybe that feature wasn't available yet. So let's try to at least get one good run over the finish line, and then I'll move on to the next. I like this one because it is random, but it's also pretty quick, so you can, try it several different times. Another thing I mentioned about if you have the ability to play this in 1, I do recommend it. A lot of the features, some things just don't display the same playing in 2 or 3. Like there's a text box that comes at the very beginning of the stage that doesn't spawn correctly in 3 here. I don't know why that is. Again, I'm upside down. Let's try once more. Every time I played this where I wasn't recording, it was turning out great, but now as soon as I'm recording, nothing's going in my favor. So I think that might be kind of typical. So I'm going to get legitimately across the finish line at least once. So let's give it a shot. There is a moment where your picture is taken. I've got like a log flume camera there, and I just capture the moment. Yeah. Oh, good. There we go. just kind of show you how it can go. So I only got 1810 that time. High score is 2260. I've always had the top score on here. No one's ever been able to top that. So let's go ahead and get out of here. So that was the first level. Just really was playing around with the physics and was able to create a level out of it. For variety, you can just change the material. And so I took the same level. I just changed the background and changed all those logs to glass, which in this game is, you know, analogous to ice. So I took Avalanche and turned it, or Landslide and turned it into Avalanche. And because it's all glass, we get moving a lot faster, but also the physics break a lot more. There's a lot of melding. Oh, I got killed. So instead of that, let's try one more replay. Hopefully I won't get a flaming log in my boat this time. This guy just tells you to play Landslide first. Give it a shot. I'm upside down, but that should be fine. I'm going fast enough, I don't think it'll much matter. And everything really flies up here at the end. And it gave me a 0 score. Oh, I ran out of time. How did that happen? Jeez, I don't even know what happened. You see my top score here is a little higher than the other level. Alright, let's get out of here. So, the next level is called 24 Rooms. Just like any kind of community thing where you can post, there's always going to be different kinds of themes or trends that run around. In LittleBigPlanet, you had like bomb survival trends and shark attack trends. One of the ones was like a 100 jump challenge, where they would set up these enormously complicated things for you to traverse, and then if you died, you just zapped to the end. And so the idea was you had to do 100 perfect jumps to make it to the end. So I wanted to take that concept, but I didn't really like the idea of it being a 100 jump challenge, so I turned it into 24 rooms. I'll talk about it more as we get into it here. So the concept is that these are individual bespoke rooms, and that kind of gave me, as a new creator in the game, the opportunity to kind of build them modularly, so I could work on each room by itself and then just drop it into the game as I refined it. And then you're supposed to have some kind of a story with these, so I kind of put this idea that you're a test subject. Unbeknownst to me, I basically ripped off the story to Portal. We have this mad scientist guy who gets crazier and crazier the further you can make it through. I didn't realize that's basically the same story as Portal until I was done. So, room number 1, not a whole lot of challenge here. Just got to make one jump, and then that is a success. You get a score at the end based on how well you've done. And so now, okay, a little more challenging. You've got to make these jumps while this goes. So I'm going to make it through the whole level here. On my original profile on the first LittleBigPlanet game, I have actually aced this level. But I won't be doing that here. Aced means made it through without dying once. Here I will die a lot because the game isn't really made for precision platforming. When this came out, a lot of creators, including myself, wanted to treat it more like a Mario game. That is not this game's strength. And so this type of level does not fit well in the LittleBigPlanet universe. Although, you know, it works, this is just not the control that this game was meant for. This is more of a 2D adventure game or adventure platformer. So the original idea was that you'd have to keep redoing the rooms over and over and over until you made it through. I had to take that out. I died on purpose there. In instances where, so when you fail, you're brought outside the room. But like if the little sponge ball there can be destroyed by the hazards, and then you'd be stuck outside the room and no sponge ball, so it'd be impossible for you to progress. So that's something, you know, it's like a bug catch. So that made the idea be, well, if you are successful, then you make it through, and if you're not successful, well, you only get one attempt. So instead of making people redo things over and over and over, basically you get one attempt per room. This is room 7. Originally they were going to be all laid out in a straight path, but it turned to find out there isn't enough room in one level to go these straight in a row, so I had to kind of do this where they double back on themselves. And this is, even though I'd been working on creation, this is only my second level I made and published. So same situation there. He has more dialogue that triggers in the first game, but because we're playing in the third game, some of the triggers don't work the way they're meant to. So, and some of these are kind of just give-me's. Like, I didn't want every room to be punishingly hard. Plus I had to come up with 24 different kinds of rooms. So some of them, they're kind of themed together, and some of them are easier than others, because I do want you to have the ability to pass some of the rooms. So out of here. Now I have worked on getting good control of the game so I can get some things done, but the control in the game is tricky enough. You really shouldn't have to do these kind of precise movements. A lot of ways this level is over-designed too. There's an entire system. There's a red switch over there. There's 4 red switches throughout the level that you have to find and trigger. And if you do, that triggers a secret message. And it's this whole convoluted thing. It's just you just kind of tend to over-design when you're new at this. So, okay, now the theme of the next few levels is kind of free hanging and having to traverse laterally across the room from a hanging position. So that's what that one was. Okay, you get to see what this one is, number 14. And how's this work? So you kind of come down here and you can't make it to the door. Okay, well, let's go the other way, and then this happens, and then you're up to the door. So all these successes, at the end, you're graded for your successes, and you actually earn prize bubbles based on how many rooms you succeeded through. And then if you collect all those bubbles at once, there's a score multiplier, and you'll get a big multiplier for getting all the bubbles at once. So this one is really meant to kind of be a fake out. This is room 16. If you don't want to see the solution, go ahead and turn away. If you want to play this yourself and not know, because this is kind of a neat one. I won't describe it any further than this, other than, well, from this point you're really stuck and it's hard to know what to do. And so I'll let you know when I cleared the room or died, because I might die. This happens. So, and now the doctor's really going mad here. I just like playing with the different ways you can construct things. It was a lot of fun. Alright, in this one you have to make it over the poison gas, across these platforms, and going right into the gas. So that one is a little trickier, and the rooms really do get harder the further you progress. Here's the same basic idea. There's poison gas on the floor, and you gotta run across the very tip tops of those platforms. So let's see if I can get on there at the right moment and progress through it. There we go. And this one ended up being nearly impossible. It's basically a Plinko board. Yeah. And it's very randomized, and they kind of just fall too fast for you to have much of a way to react to it. This is all set to time, so if you watch the pattern, you are able to progress through it. Kind of take my time here, and I can get through that. It's a neat little set piece. Much too hard. Alright, so the last several levels here, very difficult. In and of themselves, they're all passable. I've passed each of them individually. It's just trying to pass them all in one run that really gets to be a little too tricky. So let's see if I can't get through here. Not even close. That's another failure. ideas on the earlier ones, but I'm much more convoluted. Oh, too close to the side there. Like I said, it doesn't show on my LittleBigPlanet 3 profile, but I have aced this level. This one's tough too. It's basically a set of dominoes, but it involves doing these very, very tricky platform jumps. And I almost never make it. And you can actually see the whole thing fail if you get down there in time. And this is an homage to Mega Man. So you get the platforms that show up in the same repeating pattern. You see the little green thing spinning around on there. That's not supposed to be visible. It's just one of those things that doesn't work in this version of the game compared to the original. Oh, very close. Another failure. And then it's over. Continue to collect your earned prizes. I did a lot of them. I might have actually gotten a top score from this. So the bubbles will release relative to which ones you succeeded in. You sit back and reap the reward, and your bubble multiplier grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's my top score. And not even close to my highest. So, test results. Oh, someone actually beat me on this one. That's great. That's great. So let's go ahead and show. I did an alternate version of this one too. It's the same level, but I changed all the hazards to fire hazards instead of electrical hazards or whatever. I won't run through the entire thing, but it has the end result of making it much easier. Because the way the fire hazards work in this game, they're not necessarily one-hit kills. And I also added prize bubbles in the rooms. So there are prize bubbles that you can try to get and collect. And there's 5 per room, or sometimes 10, I think. So if you hit fire in this game, you kind of bounce off of it. And so you have a chance to stabilize. If you hit twice in a row, you'll die. So that's kind of, excuse me, how this game works. So we'll go ahead and get out of there. Alright, next up, I took the same concept and kind of refined the way I built things. I made it a lot less tricky. So, because, as I discovered that just doesn't suit this type of game very well. I took it down to 16 rooms. This one I got finished just a little while before LittleBigPlanet 2 launched. There's a lot of things in here. Not a lot of things. There's a few things in here that I wanted to publish in LittleBigPlanet 1 before the sequel were to come out. I'll show you specifically in the next room here. So a lot of the early ones here are really just kind of gimmies. They're interesting. They're neat to look at. They're just kind of gimmies. There's not much of a challenge there. I wanted you to have a lot more passes than failures. I made this LED, or it's not really an LED, this 7-segment display. Oftentimes these were made with lights in the game. I made mine with a different method, and I knew 2 was probably going to just allow you to have segment displays like this. I wanted to publish this in 1. The idea was that you would pass this room after every single room, but that was too much for the thermometer, the level of complexity for the game. So you see this several times over the course of it, but mostly it's reduced to just a red or a green LED, because it didn't allow for that level of complexity. And then it ended up working better in the end after all, because this is kind of a big, it breaks the flow quite a bit to have to go through that every single level. So, another thing, there are hidden prize bubbles in this and the previous level. That is for you to figure out how to get them, or if they're worth getting. I'm not going to get into that for this playthrough. So I got 3 passes, 0 failures. Same thing, that actually looks better in 1 than it does here, because it was built with that graphic. The way it displays graphics, it was built with that in mind. So Some of these aren't necessarily difficult. And then here's one that just gives you an LED for pass or fail, because I couldn't keep doing the same thing. And this one, you have to kind of do a little jump, kind of run through, and then you got a gap that you got to clear. And same thing for the going the other way. I've learned some other techniques over the course of this. That's why I was able to make these seemingly not controlled by anything. In the last level, you could see how everything worked and how everything was controlled. Well, here I wanted to kind of obscure some of that, so I learned some new techniques. I really like making stuff in LittleBigPlanet. It's very, very fun for me. But there's obviously some creators that can do some crazy, crazy cool stuff that I just can't come close to matching. This is where the game really starts to take a little bit of a turn for difficulty, this stage at least. It's kind of a puzzle thing. You got to get all the pieces down into place. And I can usually do it, but you're timed, and I may end up running out of time before I complete it. So we'll see how it goes. Dang it. Not what I wanted. Oh no, it's not working with me here. In prep, I did practice on each of these, and I was able to beat it on practice. Oh, so close. Would have had to get the last two in, so that's my first fail. That's okay, I didn't really want to ace it here anyway. I've never aced this one technically. This is intersecting figure 8. Or, yeah, concentric loops. Okay, this one's an actual figure 8. And it was very interesting and fun to figure out how to make this into a figure 8. It's kind of the juggling path for juggling that many objects. And so you just got a little window to make this jump here, and then the jumps at the edges are a little easier. This one, you're intended to go like this, but it's pretty much just as easy to go like this. So that one's a little bit of a give me too. Okay, second puzzle stage. This time, you've actually got to get the pieces oriented properly as well. So it's a level of complexity higher than the last one. There's that. You over here. And you can sort of see some of the inner workings of how it works with the sensors there. Again, those aren't actually supposed to be visible, but hey, it is what it is. I would have recorded this in LittleBigPlanet 1, except I don't have actual recording. I don't have a capture card, so I got to use the internal recording of the PlayStation 4. Almost, come on. There and there. The last thing is to just swap these two. All done with stamps in the game. I hadn't seen anybody else use stamps on pieces in that way before, so cool, another pass. This is one you just gotta kind of figure out, so it's not really too hard once you know what to do. Okay, well, that's fine. I can make it back. It's just kind of almost a dexterity challenge. Each one's moving at a rate faster than the previous one. And of course, I almost never fail that one. Of course, I'm going to fail it here. All right, here's a conveyor belt with pieces missing for you to jump across. I should have done more to stabilize this contraption. The way jumping works in this game, it's very, very dependent on physics. So as those pieces jump up and down, it affects the way you can jump on them. I failed it anyway. Similar thing here, you got to run through. I really like how this one worked out in the end as well, and it really reminds me of something that would later show up in like one of the Rayman games. And then room 16, looks like another puzzle. Got this bit of randomness going on here. That's what the thing's gonna look like. I gotta pull this lever. Well, come on, dude. There. And then all the pieces drop off, and I'm allowed in the room. Reassemble them down here. So, not the easiest thing on earth to do, but it can be done. Maybe I'll be able to do it for you. This one? Here, look. Oh, it's not. It's this one. There, my time's up. Pieces set right? No, I got them all backwards. Again, in practice, when the heat's not on, I was able to beat this, no problem. And I've already lost a piece over there, so it's basically game over for this room. All right, total 14 fails, 12 passes. And then at the end, same as before, it scores you out and you get prize bubbles based on all the ones you passed. The logic that went into making all this work, if you stick around till the end, we'll kind of go through the logic on what powers all this stuff. If you find that kind of thing interesting, get them all together and get a big score there. And not even close to number one, so. Skip that. Okay, so for the last level that I made in LittleBigPlanet 1, I wanted to get out of the very blocky structures that I had made before and try to make something that showed off a little more organic. So I made Caverna Obscura here. I'll talk about it through, you know, you've got the ability to make some really beautiful things in this game. I don't have that ability, but if you have an eye for design, you can make some very neat looking things. So I tried to give this one more of a naturalistic look. I'll tell you the conceit of the level as we get started. He's going to talk to me a lot. Going into the cavern. So this is a cave. Caverna Obscura. I wanted to play with the idea of things that you couldn't see. Okay, so this stage involves this short intro. And then there's three sections, not exactly set pieces, but three sections that each play with the idea of having to play without being able to see. So I will show you each of that. So even in this underground cave, I find what, maybe this is a temple. And I'm looking for the treasure of the Caverna Obscura. It's kind of dark until my eyes adjust to the light here. Okay, so these steps are like the main juncture in the room, and I've got to keep going across. So by this point, I don't have super complicated jumps to make. As far as how I'm making levels by this point, I'm trying to work within what the game allows. So this up, I don't want to fall. Those are spikes. That would be bad. Try this again. Follow the chain right to the other platform. Okay, checkpoint. Good. And there's a key and a lever. So what happens when I hit the lever? Well, that goes up to the next segment, and the lights go out. So you've made it through in one direction. Now you've got to make it back out with the lights going on and off. So you can't see. The inspiration here really was more or less Donkey Kong Country. The first game, there's levels where the lights turn on and off. And I do believe there's part of this was from maybe even Donkey Kong Country Returns, where I had seen in a trailer something similar to this. My lights. No, no. That was close. so this reaches up to the next section now. Now this next section is literally one of the neatest, to me, one of the best things I've made in LittleBigPlanet. I'm going to implore you again to check it out in the first game if you're able to. They add a lot of lighting effects that aren't really there in the first game, and it just looks better in the first game. So you got to go into this lava-filled and volcano-filled area. You got to make it across. And for as long as platformers have existed, having to time your jumps across jumping lava always seems to be fun. Through here. Under that one. Now, on this one, you're forced to go under it. I got two going at the same time, and there's a sponge ball in the middle, so I've got to time it across that. Checkpoint. Alright, and another switch to pull. And it goes up to the next segment, but the lights are going out again. So now the lights really are completely out. The only time that there's lighting is when these things blast up. So, and again, it's bolstered a little bit in the first game. You can see a little better here than you can in the first one, but it's a pretty darn neat effect. I really like how this segment worked out. As a matter of fact, I would say I'm pretty proud of it. Everything else is neat, but this turned out pretty darn cool. This piece of lava, or whatever you want to call it here, every other move it jumps to a different height. So it's two stage. That was kind of by sheer accident, but it worked so well here that I kept it in. It was only supposed to be one per each. Once we make it outside, we can start to see again. Okay, the last segment here is all about glass, which I wanted to do this for the effect, but it actually makes my level worse for it, and I'll explain why. So you get this little working period to get me up here. This is just to kind of force you to deal with the different kind of structures. And then on the last one, I have to let go over a piece of glass, which is slippery. And early on in the stage, we already had to traverse some of this glass, which is very, very slippery. The way this game renders glass is glass behind another piece of glass is transparent. You can't see it at all. And that's how, in this stage, I'm going to deal with the idea of not being able to see. But you've got to make everything out of glass, and then it's hard to play because it's slippery to run across. So that part isn't so great. There are glitches you can do to make certain things seem invisible by making them, extremely thin, and then I would have had proper physics to run on. But I didn't like to make use of glitches because I don't know if those are going to get patched out in the future and kind of ruin the effect I was going for. So in this segment, there's a big sheet of glass that not randomly, at intervals, will pop on and pop off. So you go from being able to see what you're doing to not being able to see the platforms or the structures at all. The thing there that's in fire on the original game, in front of the glass, the fire disappears. So that's a happy or a sad face, and this one's a happy face, so it goes back and forth. And I made it. Go from one to another. Now these structures here were inspired by the LittleBigPlanet 2 trailer. There's some platforms that move like this in that trailer. I wanted to duplicate them. And of course I had to make them out of glass. I made... Oh, so bad. Try it again. The thing that tempts me in this game so much is I want to make everything actually controlled off of the physics of the game. But really, you gotta script how things will work, and it looks as if these platforms are powered by the scissor lift inside of it, when really they're powered on their own. The scissor lift is just reacting to the platform being pushed up and down by other means. The physics simulation doesn't hold up. There's too much torque for some of the things that I wanted to do in this game. So by this point, I've learned that through all my testing and experiments and whatnot. So this next segment is pretty tricky. That's why I put, and I used in this stage all infinity checkpoints because some of the segments are kind of tricky, and I didn't want anyone to, you know, not be able to move on at all. I made it. Come on, come on. Can I go for the long jump? I can. Okay, and that's really it. You get to take a reward here, which is a ride through a bubble paradise. And then we're done. So those were all the levels I made in the first LittleBigPlanet. By the time 2 came out, I set to work to kind of learn all the new things that were available in 2. They added a lot more tools and everything else. So I started working on these set of levels. I'll go through them pretty quickly here. These are minigame inspired levels. This one is the PlayStation Move version. This is the standard version of the same game. I'll show it off. And yeah, it's a challenge level. Some of the tools they added in like the Vita pack would allow you to have things saved in the level if you left and came back. So I thought, well, maybe we can make some kind of like a LittleBigPlanet party game with a game board that you then would go out and do mini games and then be brought back to the game board. So to kind of see that idea to fruition, I started making a couple of mini game inspired levels, and this was one of them. Pardon me. Balloon pop. Okay, so I got a how to play section or a begin section. Again, inspired by Mario Party. So let's try how to play. This just shows you have control over the reticle. And fire with X. And balloon is 10 points. If it's your color balloon, it's worth 30. And the rare shiny balloons are worth 50. So choose your color. Now, the game has its own way of showing each player's color. I'm still unclear. I never really got into creating enough to be able to do all the different things you can do with puppets and proxy characters and all that stuff. But I wanted, like, for me, I don't want to lose track of who I am when I'm playing a mini game. So I wanted everybody to be able to choose their own color, and I will choose green, which, by the way, is my favorite color. And then you just have shoot. So I want that shiny one, this green one. Now the camera's perspective, you really have to be lined up pretty much dead on with the center of the reticle. You can't not just be overlapping the balloon. You've got to have the reticule actually on it when you pull the trigger. And of course I'm not competing with anyone here. So the idea is everyone is doing this at once and trying to go for a high score. Towards the end, there's a giant unleash of balloons. And the way they float left to right and up, that is randomized, okay? So they all kind of go left and right at their own, so that, but all these balloons are spawned at the same time, so the randomizer doesn't work on them. They all float in unison, which I could call that a bug, but I'm just going to call it a feature. It's kind of neat to see them all go at the same pace. And then it ends. Whoever wins, wins. And then I took that same level and made it playable with the PlayStation Move controller. I won't show that here, but that's what the Move version is for. The next one I tackled is called Color Clamor, version 1. It says version 0.1, but that's meant to be version 1. And from this game, I will talk about where it kind of starts to show my my limits of what I can do in game design. So, same thing as before. It's the dog, pardon me. Pick your color. I'm going to pick green. It goes to an opening cutscene showing them getting to the starting line. And remind you, the idea is that we're all playing together here. So you're in this little cart, you have control over it, and then as you go over the tiles, they change your color. If you hit the X button, you get a little speed boost. So the idea is we're all fighting for control here, you know, very much like Splatoon and other similar games. I added the turbo feature just to add some randomness to it, because otherwise we're all, you know, we all have generally the same powers and strengths and speeds. So to have everybody have the ability to do a turbo, add some randomness to it. So that's version 1. Let's go and show version 2. Version 2, you know, I would possibly call it my magnum opus. I'm not really sure. It's definitely not a masterpiece, but it is the most complex thing I made in this game. But again, it kind of goes to show some of the limits. It's perfectly playable. It does what it says on the tin, but it's just not overwhelmingly fun. I can make things that are competently made, but it just doesn't have the fun that, you know, somebody that really knows how to make games can build into it. So I don't know really what to do with that information, but that's just how it is. So play or how to. I've got a Newton's Cradle over there off screen, and we will do how to just to show that. And again, it goes through showing you what to do. You move with R. You can turbo boost. And we've got a couple different kinds of tiles. Those are worth 10. And the larger tiles are worth 100. So everyone should be trying to fight for those larger tiles. They're worth 10 times as much. And I end up down here to select the color. Jump down here for green. Go through and show everybody's starting position, but there's only me. Custom font. Alright, and obviously I'm playing alone here, but even with 4 players in here, which I have played it with 4 players, it's just kind of pokey and it's kind of okay. It's not super duper fun like you'd expect it to be, or like it is in my head. In my head, it's a good time, but then you play it and it's just acceptable. And we've got a larger floor area now, which is kind of a neat effect. This is another instance where this level of the stage was becoming so complex that it wasn't letting me do other things. The round 1, 2, and 3 was supposed to show up over this portion of the stage, but it couldn't. It would glitch out because there's so much going on here. I really would have made this even larger if I could have, but since all those tiles have so much logic in them, it was just too complex for the game to handle. We do have a round 3 though. Now we got this terrain. So we have big tiles for everybody to fight over, a lot more breathing room. I'm just going to try to get all of those before time's up. Should be up soon. So again, this was my creative outlet before I started making YouTube videos. I really had a good time doing this. It's fun to create even if not that many people get to experience it or see it. I'd always use the creation tools that the game had. It all the way back to like Excite Bike, or I used to make I have Hyper Load Runner for the Game Boy. You could build levels in that, and I would make levels for my little sister to play. I always got a kick out of doing that kind of a thing. And even now, I wish I had more time or more gumption to do it. I really should have made a lot of Mario Maker stuff. I love to be creating in dreams. It's just I've lost the time that I used to have to do this. These things take a long time to build. I've copied to my moon the 16 rooms. I thought we would take a look at the logic that powers it. I'm not going to explain every bit of it, but just to give you an idea of what goes into the behind the scenes part of this. And this was again created in Little Big Planet 1, and so all the logic is basically physics driven. What I mean by that is 2 and 3, they added microchips and different things that you can do. Where everything in here is kind of based off physics with gravity as being a constant. So this right here is being suspended by this dissolved material. When that disappears, that's able to fall down. That's the kind of logic we're dealing with. You can see all these wires because I've got to track every success and every failure throughout the entire game, and then have all that information available for when you get to the end, so that I can give out the prize bubbles at the proper rate. And there's just all this logic that goes into making that stuff happen. Here are all the prize bubbles. Looking at it all now, I can sort of discern what it does. This grid of 16, it scrolls across 4 at a time with a small break in between, so that's what that is. This all goes into just dispensing the prize bubbles. If I get down here, way down at the bottom corner of the stage is actually tracking all the passes and failures. And looking at it now, I can barely understand what it all is. I'd really have to dig into what all this is, and I had to, do some numbers over here for me to keep track of what's what. Letters A through G twice, because each one is something different. The red side's going to be for fail, the green side's going to be for pass. It gets real complicated real fast. And then there's these 2 things here, kind of do the same bit. And then there's all of this up here too. And I'll explain this real fast. Basically this is a simple switch. If you pass, this side of it goes away, and then if that goes away, this will fall immediately into this side, showing a pass. But if you failed, it'd be the other way around. This would go away, and that would make this fall down into here. Behind it, you can see they're sectioned. So you can only ever pass or fail. You can't go back and forth. And then the ones would set off behind it to actually, read the results of your passing or failing. So that's how all the logic worked in Little Big Planet 1. And this is the most complicated thing I made in here. Obviously, even from the beta, if you've taken a look at the calculator or any of the other things, there's some amazing stuff you can do with it. So let's contrast this with the logic from that Color Clamor. Let's take this and let's copy that over to here too. And then let's take a look at it. So in here, they added microchips, and this allows you to do that kind of logic without having to have all the physical structures to make the logic. So we'll take a look at that real quick, and I'll go ahead and bump out of here. I made creations in Little Big Planet PSP as well. As a matter of fact, one of the levels I made on PSP is one of my favorite things I ever made. I really liked that level, and I like how it turned out, and I've considered remaking it several times. The idea was always I was going to publish it on the PSP first and then remake it for the console. I just never got around to it. One day, maybe, since I still have that saved, maybe I can show that off as well, because I really do love that level. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, you see all the little microchips and sensors floating around. Right, here's a microchip. So all that logic that would have had to have been physical elsewhere, it's all just handled by these microchips. Can't get into explaining all of it now, and a lot of it I don't even understand totally myself. You can see how the screen bogs down in this section because every tile has its own microchip. Oh, it's got a panel in front of it. I can't even get it to come up. But anyway, that's really not the point. So just all the different things you could do with everything they added in the sequels. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, let me know. Talk to me in the comments. Come back if you are a Little Big Planet fan. Play my levels. Tell me your levels. I'd like to see what you made too. I'll go ahead and get out of here. I also made stuff in Little Big Planet Vita. I barely made anything in that game. And thus far, I haven't made anything at all in Little Big Planet 3, other than just playing with some of the concepts. I haven't done any work towards actual level creation. And now Dreams is out, and Mario Maker 1 and 2, and there's just so many ways to express your creativity. If only you had the time and the motivating ideas to do so. That's another that's another thing. I don't always get great ideas to make something out of, so that's something else I lack sometimes as well. So anyway, I'll let you guys go. Again, super appreciate you sticking out. If you stuck out this far, man, I don't know what to tell you. Thank you so very much, because I kind of feel like I'm boring to myself sometimes. So if you're still here, thanks so much. We will talk to you all later. Goodbye.